evening. It is Thursday, May 14th. I'm going to call this session of the Ridgefield City Council order. Would you please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilor Burkle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, please be seated. Okay, Ms. Julie, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Davis.
Present.
Councilmember Favela. Here. Councilmember Wells.
Here.
Councilmember Burkle.
Present.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Chipman.
Present.
Mayor Cole.
Present. Thank you very much. Mr. Stewart, any late changes to the agenda tonight?
No late changes, Mayor.
Okay, we're going to move on. We have public comment tonight. And as looking here tonight, we have a lot of neighbors here tonight. Thank you for joining us again. I suspect many of you are here to talk about the waterfront development. We, of course, welcome your comment tonight. We would love to hear you. We've been trying to be as responsive as we can about this issue and listen to you and be attentive to those things. And we know that there's other conversations coming up. That said, I also want to encourage you to make sure that, and I know you have, but to make sure you're reaching out to the port commissioners as well, because they are going to be the first line of defense of this before it ever comes to us as City Council. But again, we're going to go into public comment right now, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that the Port Commission is going to be the first one before it ever gets back to us, and then we have something substantial to look at. So with that, anybody wishing to address City Council regarding items not subject to a specific public hearing may come forward at this time to the podium or use a raise hand feature located at the bottom on the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen. For controls over the phone, press *9 to raise your hand or press *6 to mute or unmute. Please state your name and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Come on up. Dr. Charlotte, good to see you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Cole and distinguished members of our council. My name is Dr. Charlotte Ellis, and I'm the Executive Director of Schools and Leadership for the Ridgefield School District. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. On April 24th, our community witnessed a historic milestone. The Ridgefield Police Department and the Ridgefield School District successfully executed a countywide reunification drill, the first time an exercise of this magnitude had been conducted in our county in over 20 years. An achievement of this scale does not happen through logistics alone. It happens because of the fundamental truth: leadership and partnerships matter. This drill was a physical manifestation of a bridge that has been built between the Ridgefield Police Department and the Ridgefield School District. At the center of this success was Chief Kathy. Her leadership has never been about titles or authority. It has been about a true willingness to put others first. In every meeting, every planning session, every safety protocol, Chief Kathy's focus remained fixed on the well-being of our students and our staff. True service requires a humble heart and a relentless commitment to the collective good. Chief Kathy has strengthened our community by modeling these exact values. Because of her dedication to our partnership as a school district, we are a united front, we lead by example, and we prioritize people. Her leadership reminded us that safety isn't just about fences and locks, it's about the trust and the human connections that ensures that no student is left behind in a time of need. The success of April 24th is a testament to Chief Kathy's character. She has shown us that when you lead with a spirit of service and genuine desire to put the community needs above all else, you can achieve the impossible. Chief Kathy, you leave the Ridgefield School District stronger, safer, I'm getting choked up, and more connected. You have set a standard for a partnership that will serve as a roadmap for years to come. Your heart, your vision, and your unwavering success to our schools will be deeply grateful. You never miss a phone call, a text message, or even just an answer to a newbie to Ridgefield when you help me figure out which is the roundabout road? Where exactly is Delford? So on behalf again of a new Ridgefield resident, the Ridgefield School District, we thank you for your partnership and we thank the council for allowing it to flourish as it has. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis.
I'm not talking about the waterfront. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. My name is David Morgan, and I live at 31812 Northwest 71st Avenue. I'm the owner and operator of Plassenwith Farm, land that's been in my family since 1941, which borders the National Wildlife Refuge and includes portions of G Creek. As part of my family's long-standing tradition of responsible land stewardship, I have a certified mitigation bank on my property for Oregon white oak impacts, and I'm about to have a fish and wetland bank as well. I'm here to provide comments on the proposed updates to the critical area protection ordinances under RDC 18280. I submitted a comment letter and an appeal of the SEPA threshold determination on Monday. I'm concerned about the proposed CAO update that would require on-site mitigation first, then mitigation in city or city-owned or controlled land second, prior to any consideration of mitigation bank credits. By disfavoring the use of mitigation banks to address project impacts, these ordinance revisions will complicate the permitting process, lead to fragmentation of habitat, loss of functional uplift, and temporal loss of impacted ecological functions. Mitigation banks which are in place and certified by the federal and state government as successful before credits are available to offset proposed impacts, reduce the risk and uncertainty offered by permitting responsible mitigation. Mitigation banks provide larger, more ecologically valuable mitigation by consolidating functions and services at a site selected specifically for its capacity to provide functional uplift and watershed-wide benefits. Importantly, federal and state regulations establish a preference for the use of mitigation bank credits first because they are more ecologically beneficial, have a higher likelihood of success, and require permanent protection from future development and ensure long-term management maintenance to safeguard continued ecological benefits. The proposed ordinance updates that establish a conflicting hierarchy for mitigation are contrary to those state and federal requirements, which are rooted in sound science. Ridgefield has several mitigation banks that service the area and have available credits which the city has used in the past. If you put a hierarchy in place that conflicts with state-federal approach, it will make the process more complicated and harder for permittees to navigate. Mitigation banks allow for streamlining and permitting efficiencies while ensuring strong local, state, and federal agency oversight, extensive monitoring, management, and in perpetuity site protection. Additionally, these updates do not demonstrate the use of best available science, and if the city is going to change critical areas policy, it needs to clearly identify the science it's relying on and explain those departures from established federal and state requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Anything have to be you?
We'll be safe. Well, while you guys are up there, you can read my shirt. So Ridgefield, not just where we live, but who we are. So I'm Jan Haig. I've been in this community for 22 years. Consider myself still a newbie. And I'd also like to acknowledge the city recognizing me for all my volunteer work. So in looking at the Port's website, and I realize that you guys are separate, but a lot of what is said is what's happening in our community. And so the Port wants quality of life with unique character. They want to be good stewards of the environment. Cleanup was done to redevelop the waterfront to support economic benefit for the community. They want to improve public access to the waterfront. They want to provide enhanced community spaces, including a waterfront park and connections to Lake River and the wildlife refuge. They want to retain public ownership of most or all of the waterfront property. Provide and improve public access to the public areas of the waterfront. We have one opportunity to develop this area. We have a marina and a wildlife refuge. Those cannot be put anywhere else. Industrial can go in industrial areas. Apartments can go elsewhere. And we have many restaurants, new restaurants. Those are in other areas also. And we have shopping up at the junction. The community wants access to the water and the marina and parks and the refuge. Let's start there. And it wouldn't be bad to have a pickleball court outside.
Thank you, Jan.
my name is Walt Gordon, and I'm coming here to plead to your love and compassion for Ridgefield. When I moved here 21 years ago, it was Mayberry, and I know you've heard this time and time again. The problem is with the port's suggestion and recommendations for the multi-use functions of the waterfront area, I have a feeling that what they really want to do is emulate Vancouver, and in turn, I would oppose that 1,000%. The reason why we love Ridgefield isn't because it's like Vancouver. It isn't because it's like Seattle. It isn't like any other metropolitan area. Rather, it's a small town. And I'm afraid that by developing the waterfront area, it will take that identity away from us. Now, we're more than just identity, we're a commitment. And the commitment that I was reading earlier today about the plans for the redevelopment doesn't give me a sense that it's really in the best interest of the citizens of Ridgefield. It's in maybe the best interest of real estate. It's maybe the best interest for low-income housing, but in a really awkward location, right beside a railroad, right with only one entrance, which is the Pioneer Street overpass. I know that you're not the final say, but I do know that you have a love of this city, and I'm pleading that you please bring a cooler head, and if nothing else, a pause to the whole concept of having the waterfront developed the way that it's currently being modeled. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon.
I have a prepared comment this time. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Robin Knight, and I'm here tonight as a resident who cares deeply about my community and our waterfront. 3 weeks ago, I stood here and expressed my sadness at watching the town I love move quickly towards becoming the kind of overcrowded, overdeveloped suburb I moved away from. Much like Point Ruston in Tacoma, Washington, another formerly open waterfront built on a remediation site with significant public concern around its development. Point Ruston began with promises of revitalization, but it became entangled in years of lawsuits, infrastructure conflicts, environmental issues, and ongoing disputes over public access and community impacts. Ridgefield has an opportunity to learn from experiences like these before irreversible decisions are made. Council has told us to direct our concerns to the port. Many of us have done so without response or with deeply discouraging responses, especially following the cancellation of every remaining public meeting on this month's calendar. So tonight we are here addressing you. You also told us that your hands are tied until a development application is submitted. We've been told that the current mixed-use zoning for the waterfront is essentially locked in until 2028. It is my understanding that under Washington's Growth Management Act, cities retain authority to revisit zoning during comprehensive plan updates, a process Ridgefield is currently in with the 2045 comp plan update. RCW 35.63.120 also establishes that cities retain authority to amend zoning ordinances in consideration of public welfare and planning concerns. I would respectfully ask Council to explain the specific legal or procedural limitations that prevent reconsideration of the current zoning before 2028. This conversation is about the kind of community we want Ridgefield to be. Nearly 1,600 signatures have been gathered on a petition requesting reevaluation of the port's development plans and meaningful community participation before plans move forward. That could include a citizen advisory committee, open houses where alternatives are presented, and public design workshops that allow residents to engage before final decisions are made. If the port and the city's mission is to truly preserve and enhance quality of life for Ridgefield residents, then meaningful public participation and protection of recreational open space should be central to this process, not secondary to it. Residents deserve real opportunities to participate, not just a forced ranking survey that never allowed us to say no to waterfront development altogether. Once our shoreline is transformed into something our community never asked for, no future council will be able to give our waterfront back to the people of Ridgefield. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knight.
Hello, good evening. I'm Peggy Quall, and I've lived in Ridgefield almost 30 years. I understand that this development is administered under the Port Commission, but some parts of the development plan will, it seems, fall under the purview of the city. One, traffic, this has been addressed, but when you consider possibly 250 residential units, each unit statistically represents 8 trips per day. That's 600 extra trips that aren't happening now, not counting people who visit down there or people who work down there. The majority of those trips would occur at peak traffic hours, in the mornings when people are going to work or dropping kids off at school. And then in the afternoon, probably from 2:30 to 6, when people are trying to come home, pick up their kids from school, or get them to sports and other events. We all know that that pioneer between the port property and all the way to the first roundabout, I think it's 30th, is a bottleneck. It's windy, wooded areas. There's going over a bridge. There's a 3-way stop. And it just becomes a nightmare. And I can't imagine people who live presently in the town and those that might live at the port development. It may just be a daily nightmare. I also think there's some safety issues that the city might be interested in or be responsible for. Again, the overpass. We should have another exit or egress there. You know, we have to think about earthquake. We're in a serious earthquake zone. Predictions of really a serious earthquake could happen anytime. The port is what's now said to be a mitigated floodplain, but still it's on Lake River. And remember in '96 we had a very serious flood. It could still be flooded even with whatever they've done down there at the port. Again, in regards to traffic, you know, if an emergency vehicle is down there helping someone in serious trouble and they run into traffic at peak times, I mean, that could be a life and death situation. I also worry a little bit about the liability regarding residents living, especially residents with children, living down on a waterfront like that, and I don't know what is required to safeguard children. The city, residents, and administration know how special the waterfront property is, as well as our historic downtown, the refuge, and the significant archaeological site that is the Cathapodal Village. I know what people love about Ridgefield because I heard it almost every day of the 18 years my shop was on Main. They love the small town feel and they love the wild spaces of birds in the refuge, and we really should design with that in mind. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Quall.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councilmen, council members. My name is Matt Haggerty, 20-year resident of Ridgefield. I'm here tonight to speak about something many longtime residents and boaters are increasingly concerned about, the future of motorized boating access to the Ridgefield waterfront. It certainly wouldn't be the first time it's mentioned, but no one is arguing against kayaks, paddleboards, or non-motorized recreation. Those users also deserve safe access to the water, but many people in the boating community feel there is an unspoken shift happening in the overall vision for the waterfront, one that is increasingly prioritizing tourism, paddlecraft recreation, and a curated destination experience over the practical needs of the people who have actually used this waterfront for decades. The port's public materials repeatedly emphasize kayak access, shoreline recreation, tourism, and creating a regional waterfront destination. Meanwhile, longtime boaters continue hearing vague assurances that the launch will remain, but without meaningful discussion about congestion, trailer parking, launch capacity, navigation access, or how motorized users realistically fit into the long-term plan. For many residents, it's beginning to feel less like the boating community is being included in the future of the waterfront and more like it is slowly being designed around and eventually out. That concern is not irrational. Across the Northwest, working waterfronts and traditional boating access points are increasingly being transformed into highly programmed districts where motorized users become an afterthought once development, events, tourism pressure, and parking conflicts intensify. The current launch is not just another amenity. It is used by people of all ages, for decades, fishermen, families, older residents, and people who rely on motorized access to safely use the river. It reflects Ridgefield's long-standing relationship with the Columbia and with outdoor recreation that is practical, local, accessible, not just marketable. If the port truly intends to preserve access for all the users, then the boating community deserves more than verbal reassurances. Residents deserve clear, public comments regarding launch access, trailer parking, usability, and long-term protections for motorized recreation before plans become irreversible. A waterfront that only works well for tourists, paddlecraft users, and future mixed-use development is not a waterfront that fully serves the existing community. For me personally, this is becoming painfully obvious that the port members appear to want the boat and boating community to go away. There was no more parking made for them. And if you do the numbers, if you take 124,000 divided by 72 or $75 per boat permit, that was 1,666 permits. The average boat will have between 2 and 7 people, 4 people. Now you're talking about several thousand boaters, both recreational and fishermen, that you're basically thumbing your nose at. And we're asking you, please, listen to this.
Thank you, Mr. Haggerty.
Hello. Hi. I don't know why, but it's always so nice to be here and see your smiling faces. And I wanted to thank you for helping us with this, whatever you can do when the time comes.
Ms. Scott, could you start by introducing yourself?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the introduction. Mayor Cole, yes. Sarah Scott, Ridgefield. So the petition, after 2 weeks, hit 1,600 signatures today, and that's a lot. I think many people can't come to council meetings, and most people hate speaking in public. So surveys and petitions need to be taken seriously. If all the people who signed the petition came in and spoke to you and read the statement and used their 3 minutes, it would amount to some 80 hours of testimony. So that's more than 3 full days of listening to people expressing that they want to preserve the waterfront. That's 3 full days through the night with no breaks, 3 straight days, one person after another using their 3 minutes. That seems like a lot of support for preserving the waterfront, and that's just in 2 weeks. Anyway, if you haven't had time, probably you haven't, to read some of the comments on there too, I just thought I'd read a couple of comments from the petition. The only people who would benefit are developers, and our community would suffer for it. Leave the major development by the freeway and let the community enjoy their waterfront. Ridgefield needs more wildlife and natural spaces and recreation opportunities, not less. Developments like these will permanently detract from the character and natural beauty that draws people to this lovely town and its quality of life. Another one says, it's the only spot left in Ridgefield that feels like the old city. And another, part of why we moved to Ridgefield is because of the natural spaces. Please don't turn this into another concrete zone. My favorite comment is this: a hotel and housing can be built somewhere else. A Ridgefield sunset over the water cannot. Some things should stay exactly as they are, wild, quiet, and free. I believe that the people of this town are fighting for the uniqueness that attracted them to Ridgefield in the first place. Plus, I believe they are voices for the wildlife, the flora, the fauna, who have no voice. And again, they are my neighbors, and I stand with them. And thank you for listening and taking the time and everything you do.
Thank you again.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Julie Anderson, and I'm here tonight because I believe Ridgefield's waterfront is more than just land available for development. It is one of the most valuable natural and recreational spaces our community has. We keep hearing that the waterfront zoning is fixed until 2028 and that there's nothing council can do about it. But as residents have started looking into this process, many of us are finding information that suggests zoning and land use decisions may still be revisited or further defined, especially during comprehensive plan updates and through amendment processes already allowed under Washington law. So I hope council can help clarify why residents are being told that reconsideration is off the table. Because from the public's perspective, the legal framework appears more flexible than we are hearing. People of all ages and income levels come to the waterfront to walk, fish, kayak, birdwatch, take boats out on the Columbia, spend time with family, and experience a connection to the river that is increasingly rare in growing communities. It is one of the few places where we can still access open space, quiet, wildlife, and the natural beauty that has long defined Ridgefield's identity. For many, this space is not a luxury. It is where we go to breathe, decompress, exercise, gather with family, and reconnect with nature. These kinds of places have real impacts on mental health, physical health, and quality of life. Growth in Ridgefield is happening, but growth should not come at the expense of every remaining natural shoreline and community gathering space. Development decisions made today will shape the lives of residents for generations. Preserving our waterfront also has long-term economic value. Communities across Washington are realizing that access to nature, recreation, trails, wildlife habitat, and scenic open space are not obstacles to prosperity. They are part of what makes people want to live, visit, and invest there in the first place. The waterfront is part of Ridgefield's identity. It's part of what makes this city different from every other rapidly developing area in Clark County. So I'm asking the council to carefully reconsider whether the current path truly reflects the long-term interests of the community and whether enough priority is being given to environmental preservation, recreational access, and public open space before irreversible decisions are made. Future generations deserve the chance to experience our waterfront, not just through photographs or memories, but as a living, accessible part of Ridgefield itself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Mary Ann Brown, and I am a Ridgefield resident. I'm here to speak about some troubling information the public has learned regarding the developer selected by the Port for the Waterfront District, Palindrome Properties Group. Palindrome operates a property management company called Pacific Properties Group, which would likely play a very significant role in the day-to-day management of any residential development built on the waterfront. Palindrome and Pacific Cap also appear to operate under shared leadership and a closely affiliated entities. Many of us are deeply concerned to learn that in February 2025, the U.S. Department of Justice resolved a Federal Fair Housing Act case involving Pacific Cap. The company entered into a settlement agreement related to allegations that an on-site property manager subjected female tenants to years of sexual harassment, coercion, and retaliation at one of their properties. According to the federal complaint, multiple tenants reported misconduct over a period of several years, raising serious concerns about oversight, tenant safety, and corporate accountability. What is deeply concerning to many residents of the timeline and should be concerning to everyone in this room about how we enter into partnerships. The lawsuit was publicly filed in 2024, during the same period that the port was evaluating development proposals and ultimately selected Palindrome for the Ridgefield Waterfront project. This raises important questions about the vetting process and how you enter into partnerships with people. That's a continuing process and doesn't start here and end here. It's ongoing and it's very fluid. Was the port aware of the litigation during the selection process? They should have been. If you have to vet who you work with. Was it disclosed as part of the proposal review? That's a big deal. If so, how was it evaluated in determining whether the company reflects the values and standards our community expects for such a prominent public-facing project? This is not about attacking or condemning an entire company, but it is about accountability and transparency and who you work with. We depend on our public leaders to make good decisions and to know how to enter into business arrangements. So, the waterfront trail near Sacagawea and the proposed residential area can feel relatively secluded. Again, it's a safety issue. You don't want people who can't manage their employees managing your properties. The waterfront is often described as the front porch of Ridgefield. It doesn't feel like that's not a priority for this development at all. So I would like to thank you for the time, and I want to thank Robin for getting us out here. So.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
My name is Jamie Kaiser. I'm also a Ridgefield resident. I am asking the City Council to reconsider the development plan for the Ridgefield waterfront as you are part of the decision-making process. Most residents understand that some level of development is inevitable and even necessary. What we are asking for is a compromise, a plan that genuinely reflects community input while reducing impacts on downtown traffic, nearby neighborhoods, the small town charm of our downtown, and the National Wildlife Refuge which directly borders the proposed site. The port's website clearly states that the waterfront belongs to the citizens of Ridgefield, but it does not feel as though we are being heard, especially with the canceling of the latest meetings where we can't have a voice. Did you know that the port survey received only 1,542 responses, while our petition opposing the development already has more than 1,600 signatures and continues to grow? In a recent class hosted by the Refuge and facilitated by wildlife biologist Dr. David Zanana, he stated that this development would negatively impact the species of wildlife utilizing the refuge. When the refuge was established in 1965, one of the specific purposes was to provide wintering habitat for the dusky Canadian goose. According to the refuge, wintering habitat is already extremely limited within the Dusky's range, and that is without additional impacts this development would bring. The driving desire of the port for a statewide kayak destination and the comprehensive growth plan should be reconsidered. Better water access? Yes. Development or this development? No. The alternative to comprehensive growth plan that you favor for the comprehensive growth plan adds more land to satisfy the county and state, whereas alternative one, which was an option, didn't add any additional land. So you can leave the waterfront alone. Our waterfront and its future is in your hands. The decisions made today will become the legacy you leave not only for this community, but to your children and future generations. I hope you do the job you were elected to do, protect and do right by the community we all call home.
Hi, my name is Morgan Rumble. First of all, I want to say I do feel that you all have been much more receptive to all of our concerns personally as well as professionally, and I really, really appreciate that. I also just want to acknowledge at a burrito chat at Little Conejo, Katie mentioned that Mayor Cole goes to the Clark County city council or the county meetings and really advocates for our nature spaces and really making sure that our neighborhoods have that nature space. And as a pet sitter who pet sits in many of our neighborhoods, new neighborhoods around Ridgefield, I see it. I've been able to like find really cool routes in like most neighborhoods that I've been. So I really, really appreciate that. And I hope that we can continue that advocacy towards the port and their plan. It's hard for me to understand why it's so separated. Not really interested in like all the media of it, which I know is probably is a weakness of that. But this will fundamentally change the city of Ridgefield if this happens. I work at a small business that is owned and operated for the last 30 years. Many businesses are owned and operated. Bringing an out-of-state developer to manage like businesses down there will completely change what Ridgefield feels like. We're putting the cart way before the horse. What about public transportation? Why are we thinking of putting low-income housing where we are in a food desert where there is no access to fresh food and grocery store? I already see low-income residents walking up Pioneer all the time to get to a grocery store. We need to figure out these infrastructure things far before we are building things that just make developers millions of dollars. And I also just want to say I support everything that everybody else has said here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tony Weigel. I've lived here for 4 years, so I'm a newbie. I threw this together, but I don't know if I will follow it. But just a little story on why I'm here today. I don't want to be here today, but around 2 weeks ago, I threw my back out, and I was bedbound. And my in-laws were visiting. The family was out having a good time, and I'm like, I just want to close my eyes and listen to something interesting on YouTube. So it was April 27th, and I was like, the Ridgefield City Council meeting. I'm going to listen to that and relax. And then I was like, that person's not happy. I'm going to fast forward, I kept fast forwarding, and then I fell asleep finally. I don't know who it was that put me to sleep, but like 40 minutes later, I wake up, it's still going. I was like, something important is going on. Let me rewind. And I rewound. I was Googling stuff, palindrome, like waterfront, like I had no idea. So now I've learned way too much in the past 2 weeks, like stuff I don't want to know. And so when I read like the, Columbian or the Reflector and see that we've been told this for 30 years. How did you not know? Like, we've been talking about this forever. So I pick up the phone, I call my friend whose husband is born and raised in Ridgefield. And I was like, did you know about this 10 buildings of affordable housing going up on the waterfront? He was like, oh, they've been talking about that for years. Oh, never happened. And I'm like, I think they're signing something in a couple of weeks. So I just want to let you know that we are not aware, the newbies and the natives here, like the people born and raised here, they're just not aware. And I know your position is that you have limited influence in this process, but as voted representatives of us, our ask is that you use your influence to help the port make the right decision for the community. Something else that weighs on me is the tax incremental funding or financing. Like, what is that? I'm Googling it, and who does it benefit? Just anyone can Google it or ask ChatGPT. The number one beneficiary is the developers. So, thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'll go. I've been waiting. I'm like, da-da.
but I brought stuff to read, so I'm going to use my whole 3 minutes this time, darn it. So, all right, so my name is Shauna Fisher, obviously resident of Ridgefield. So I just wanted to share a little something before I go over something. So I was leaving downtown the other day at the stop sign right in front of the hardware store to turn left on Pioneer, right? And something just magical just hit me, right? The stop sign, it has hearts in it, right? So truly, that is the magic and heart of Ridgefield, is the downtown. That is the heart and the magic. That is, to me, that's where the town ends, but that's where the magic begins, right? There's something so special where your heart can connect. You can breathe. There's peace, and there's comfort, and there's connection, and there's just that quaintness and the open spaces, right? And even I walked along the waterfront with a friend this last week, and it was so cool to just, you could see the bunnies and the birds, and you can hear yourself think. Like, how amazing is that, to hear yourself be able to think, right? Because up here by the freeway and in and out and all that craziness and all the roundabouts, like, how do I get around all the roundabouts, right? Like, oh gosh, okay, I made it through the roundabout, I'm safe. But there's something that's just not the peacefulness that the downtown of Ridgefield brings. There is just something magical that you can't get anywhere on that. Like, I go to the Vancouver, well, I don't really go to the Vancouver waterfront, and you know why? Because it's not peaceful to me. It's just like, oh, there's like condos right up against the walking pathway, and that's not peaceful. That's not nature. That's not beauty. And there's, like, I just want to ask you guys, just think about this. I know you can't answer me, but when was the last time that you went down to the waterfront and you just maybe sat at one of those benches down there, right? And you could hear nothing. You could just listen to the sounds of nature and just reconnect with nature, reconnect with yourself. And how amazing is that, to just be able to be in that space and just be able to connect, because we need that, right? We need that for mental health. And that's one of the reasons I moved to Ridgefield, is because of the quaint downtown, the buildings. And what are you going to do? Like, when you expand, you can't expand down Pioneer. You're going to like tear down City Hall and like expand and like just tear down all those buildings. Like, how are you going to mind the traffic down there? How is that going to work, right? It's just the beauty, and it's just the downtown. There's so many other ways to enhance the waterfront and preserve its beauty and its magic. And I just, thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher.
Good evening. I'm Tim Dottie. I've lived here for 32 years. And first of all, I want to talk about Chief Dorio. I spent 25 years with the fire department. And in that 25 years, I've never worked with a better police officer and a finer human being than that woman sitting there. Well, that was the molasses. Here's the sulfur. This piece of beautiful Norman Rockwell democracy that we all see today is here for one reason. They trust you. The port doesn't listen to them. The meeting we were all going to go to Wednesday night was canceled. They couldn't make it to the meeting to listen to the people. Now, they're all going to make it to a meeting this weekend, though, at Skamania Lodge. But we can't go to that one. So when you look out at this audience, think about this. They're coming to you because they need your help. You're the ones who will listen, and you're the ones who will care. And that's why all these folks are here today. Please do this one thing. When you walk down to the port, there's this beautiful stone bench, and it's the Eileen Woodage bench. And I want you to go down there in the evening and sit down and ask yourself, Steve, what would Eileen do? What would she want? And act accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Is,
Can I speak again?
is there anybody else in the room wishing to give public comment right now?
My name is Rick Grins. I can't take credit for that petition or the organization behind it, but I'm really proud to say that it's really representative of what Ridgefield needed. I went out and circulated that petition last Friday afternoon for several hours out in the Costco, In-N-Out Burger area. I hit every business I could. And some of the businesses weren't able to post it because that's their policy, not to get involved with politics. But what I found out from talking to all these different people, they had one common universal concern, and that was the traffic. They did not want to see this little small town of Ridgefield, this downtown area, become a traffic jam like they have out there at the junction. They thought that that would be so detrimental to our downtown businesses and citizens that live down here. They had a real fear for that occurring. You don't have to go up north. You don't have to go down to Vancouver to hear it. You can go right out here and talk to these businesses and these people that are out in the area patronizing those businesses and get a feel for what's coming to Ridgefield if that waterfront development is developed to the extent that the port wants it. And it's going to be it's going to be irreversible if it were to take place. And I'm not saying we can't develop some of it, but boy, it needs to be really scrutinized by the community that it's going to be affecting, and it needs to be done so all user groups are treated fairly, equally, and that goes for all the boaters, whether you're non-motorized, motorized, all the recreational folks that go down there to bird watch, enjoy the refuge, get out on the Columbia River, whatever your interest is at the waterfront, everybody should be equally heard, and those concerns should be listened to. And that's what we elected you officials there as city councilors and mayor, to pay attention to what the community needs are. And there's several needs in this community that I feel may not have been addressed in the past with all the development. You hear a lot of locals saying, oh man, we have 2-lane roads out here that the farmers used. We can't handle the development. The traffic is just ridiculous. And I hear this all the time. We're going to have it 10 times worse out here on Pioneer once that development goes in. And if you don't face the facts, you're doing a major injustice to the community. I come down here for the 4th of July on my bicycle just so I can avoid all the traffic and stuff. My son and I ride it. We'll go through town, and you know what? A lot of times I don't stay for the parade. I'm ready to get out. But anyway, thanks for your time. And your decision regarding the waterfront, I will say again, will probably be the most influential and most important decision that any of you ever have anything to do with in Ridgefield.
Thank you, Mr. Grants. Is there anybody else in the room wishing to give comment?
Hi, Council. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you, everyone. My name is Tricia Hawkinstead. I've been a Ridgefield resident since 2009. I agree with a lot of the viewpoints expressed so far. Thank you, everyone, for your thoughtful comments. Thank you to the organizers of the Preserve Ridgefield Waterfront and allowing everyone that can't be here tonight to share their voices. And also I want to represent all the critters out there at the refuge and in the area that can't share their voices either. But I have tried to express concern about the proposed concept of the development at the waterfront through all avenues available to me. I went to the port meeting. I attended this council meeting a few weeks ago. I was very disappointed that the port last-minutely canceled their meeting, and we weren't allowed our voices there as well. So I have some questions about that, because that does not seem like they want to hear from us, and it does not feel very equitable to the community voice in this process. So I understand that while you might not be the final decision makers here, like others have asked, I ask that you use your influence, your power that you do have to represent the community voices and concerns that we're raising. The Carty Lake view is right outside of our backyard. Fortunately, it is an amazing spot that we have, and me and my husband and my 20-month-old daughter get to hang out with the swans during winter as they migrate here, and the pelicans as they come in hundreds, and swans in thousands, I believe. But it's one of the most amazing things that we can witness and are grateful for every time. And this is for several months throughout the year. So that is something that folks don't have to even enter into the National Wildlife Refuge to see, but can enjoy down at the natural area that is there. So I look at the proposed concept and I see apartment housing, and that does not seem like the appropriate spot to have apartment or high density housing, especially low income, in that fragile ecosystem area. So that seems like that is not being mindful, it's not being strategic of utilizing that area, and the community is asking for natural and open spaces. So if development does need to happen, I would hope that it could be a lot more logical, a lot more respectful to the fragile ecosystem that exists there, and in partnership with the National Wildlife Refuge, and in partnership with the fishing industry and boaters down there. Everyone can benefit in so many different ways than is what being proposed by the port at this moment. So I ask you to very, very carefully reconsider, look for alternates, invite the community voice so that we can make this an amazing and continuous, sustainable, amazing space that we have.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Michael Middleton, and I'm sorry to say it, I've only been here a resident for 6 months. And I can see that this development is not good for the community. My question is, why the developers were even thinking about coming here and develop that. How much of that land is within the 100-year floodplain? If it's within the 100-year floodplain, you guys are gonna have a big decision on what you're gonna let allowed or not. The other thing is, has there been an environmental impact statement done on this area recently? Because what may have been done 30 years ago has probably changed from this year. And as far as affordable housing in that area, it's almost impossible when you're going to have to be doing foundations on pilings. So much for the low-income houses. And as it is, I enjoy my 6 months here in Ridgefield, and I do not look forward to all the new construction that might take place. Thank you.
Thank you. Another call. Anybody else wishing to give comment in the room? Okay, seeing none. Miss Julie, anybody online?
We do have one online, Mayor Travis Goodwin.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Goodwin.
Hello, Council. Mayor Cole, Travis Goodwin. First off, I'd like to reiterate on what someone else said about the comprehensive plan. Mr. Cole, you have been trying to push this comprehensive plan and growth boundaries, and I understand that Ridgefield needs it. However, you're also the same person that can change the zoning and put the things on there. Mr. Steve over there, your city manager, you guys got your hands all over this project. So to act like you guys have no say is complete horseshit, and you know it. So I expect to see some kind of change. I expect to see some kind of audit I want to see where the $2 million went to the Greeley building before anything else is done from the port. And I haven't seen a bit of action out of you guys. And the fact that you guys know this and you continue to sit up there and act like you have nothing to do with it is full of shit. So unfortunately, I couldn't be there today, but I want to make sure that you know and everyone knows that we know that you guys are all in cahoots. So you want to build a hotel, there's a hardware store you can build it in. You want to build low-income housing, there's a tree farm down the road called Tree Wiseman. Happily to build it down there. You want to build where you want to build and put stuff, you put it on your property. You don't put it on public property. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope you actually take action on this. Because if you don't, we will vote every single one of you out. Have a great day.
Thank you. Ms. Julie, anybody else online?
Not seeing anyone else
Okay, we are
online,
going to
Mayor.
close public comment and continue with it. Thank you again to all of our neighbors who showed up here tonight, and thank you for your concern. Thank you for your willingness to engage in the civic process and let your voice be heard. And again, we do hear you. We do see the emails. We're trying to be very responsive, so we do appreciate it. And yes, so thank you very much. Okay. Moving on with our agenda, we're going to move to the consent agenda. Council, I would accept the motion to approve as presented.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Burkle, seconded by, I heard Chipman first. Council, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, council. Motion carries. Okay, moving on to our business portion of the evening. Our first item of business tonight is the second reading of ordinance number 1480. This is the 2026 Budget Amendment 2, and this will be led by Mr. Kirk Johnson, our Finance Director. Mr. Johnson, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Cole and council, and thank you for being here, residents. So let's jump to slide 3. Julie, please. We've already had first reading. We did go through it rather quickly because we did have quite a bit of public comment and a large agenda the last time. So I'm going to cover a few things. We do have a few changes for the spring supplemental budget. Most of the items that are in this are projects that we already had budget for last year, and the projects did not finish in 2025, so we are carrying them over to 2026. And then we do have a few items that are new, and we do have them broken out that way to kind of show. So on slide 3, the total request is $26,887,200. With that, the majority of the funding is coming from partner funding for the Ridgefield Recreation Center. When we did the 2026 budget, we did recognize the city portion of the project in a public-private partnership for the community and recreation center. This will cover both construction management, special inspections, and things like that. General fund balance will be impacted by just over $206,000. The majority of the rest of the amount will be covered through remaining 2024 bonds that we issued for the Pioneer Widening Project, and then from our water system development charges for some water projects. So let's jump to slide 4. These are the carry forward projects. Just some final repairs to the splash pad. This will be paid by the contractor that initially worked on the splash pad. The city needed to go back and repair some of that to get the permit from the Department of Health and open that in May, which have been completed, and the splash pad has opened. The next one is Pioneer Widening Construction. This is the final amount. There is no change to the contract amount from what was in 2025, so I wanted to be clear about that. At the first reading, I had $300,000 as a carry forward amount. What we found out after the fact was that their As we had council approve the change orders and the budget amount in 2025, the contractor still has not invoiced us for any of those. So they are invoicing us in 2026. Since our budget does expire as of 12/31 of each year, we needed to carry over more for that amount that had already been approved. That also includes the construction management portion, and then also some mitigation plantings that needed to be done in 2026 as well, which are complete as well. There'll just be some maintenance done further on that. Then the additional carry forward was for the Clark Cowlitz Fire Rescue for the fire station that we did as mitigation for the bonding and the funding source that we did a few years ago, just over $2 million. The final one on this page, which is a change as well, was the Clark Public Utility Electrical for Pioneer Whiting, where initially we had $450,000. There is some tax that needs to be added on to that Clark Public Utilities has charged us, so that's the increase to $480,000. So this particular part of the project, initially it was to do what they call a flyover, which is to kind of change where the electrical goes so that we didn't affect any service during that time. But the remaining part of that was to do the permanent changes for the electrical and underground that with the project. So on slide 5, it was the carryover of the Parks Revenue Program and ADA Transition Plan. Both of those, again, were budgeted previously. The next change is the Pioneer Hillhurst concept design. In first reading, we had $50,000. We since had some additional invoices for work that was approved back in 2025 to prepare legal documents for the property at 907 Pioneer so that we could finish off the right-of-way easement and then prepare that for sale. And then the final one is the Onslow Nature Play Area, which again was budgeted in 2025, and the work will be completed this year. So on to new requests for operations, professional development supplies for our new city attorney position, a traffic impact fee credit waiver that council approved earlier this year for $18,000. And then a plan to come into compliance or prepare for compliance, which I believe has to be done by 2030 for our Public Works Operations Center energy plan. And this will create that plan for us so that we are in compliance with some new state regulations for buildings that are 20,000 square feet or larger. And then for our water fund, an increase one time in professional service work so that we could do some studies, continue to look for water rights and do some work around our water system as well. And then finally for the operations area, there was a project that council approved, I believe it was last year, it might have been in 2024, to do some striping and change 4th Street to a one-way. And this is to finish the work this summer after school is out and before school starts again next year. And that is to increase our striping budget by $15,000 to $65,000. That again is a one-time request. And then finally, out of our transportation benefit district, an increase, and this will be an ongoing increase of $10,000 to a total of $15,000 for professional services, and then also for some software costs. This will allow us to get a module to track sidewalks and to do projections in cost and maintenance needed for our sidewalks that we've already talked with council about.
Awesome.
And on our next slide will be new projects for capital. The one that I mentioned earlier for the Ridgefield Community and Recreation Center, this is to recognize the private partnership portion of the expense and the revenue of $22 million, increasing the budget to $37 million. The reality is not all of that is going to be spent in 2026. This will be an 18-month or so project. So some of that we will be carrying over in the next budget as well. And then the Water System Development Charge Project, this is in our utilities capital fund for the Kennedy Well Field and well field and treatment design for $1 million. This will prepare what we have, or what we're looking for with a new well up at the Kennedy well area, and trying to get that to construction-ready documents so that we're ready to go as soon as we get the water rights finalized by Department of Ecology. And then finally, Sargent to Main improvement design. This is a project that council asked us to work on a few years back. This also includes some CDBG grant funding for a portion of that, and this is $250,000 to finalize design to get to the point where we can move forward with that grant, and then get to full construction costs so that we can come back to council on that one. So finally, the last two items are for debt service. These are both new since the last time we talked. As you're well aware, we have two Public Works Board loans. One is for the Royal Road design to finalize the final section of Royal Road up to Hillhurst, and then for the downtown storm improvements. Both of those, we took out our first draws on the loan last year, and then we took out some draws early this year. Every June 1st, we do have debt service due on this. Typically, in the past, they've always waited to tell us when we start our debt service until we finish the full draw period and close the loan. Their new policy is to start to charge us as we're drawing on the project. So we have $32,000 on the Royal Road loan and $7,100 on the downtown storm improvements. So that is the total of the projects. If we look at the next page, just a summary, ongoing requests for council is $74,100. One-time request is just over $26,800,000, and then transfers to support the budget amendment from other funds is just over $2 million. The total fund balance impact is $4.8 million, and that includes the drawdown of the rest of the bond funding that we had as well. So for the Pioneer widening, what we had done, and part of asking for the additional, we had refunded some funding to our traffic impact fee funds for previous expense on that project. We'll be using that. That's not new money. That's money that we already had in hand that council approved back when we went out for the issuance of the bond. So there is no change there, but it's part of the drawdown on that. With that, I would answer any questions, or that is everything I have.
Great, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Okay, very helpful. Council, questions for staff on this item here? Look around. Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to go just back up to the professional services on the water side for the water fund, the extra 100,000, multiple studies in 2026. Are there going to possibly be opportunities for maybe grants that we can, that just seems like maybe an area that's ripe for some of that, where we can offset some of that extra expense?
For the projects they have planned, those aren't grant eligible.
Okay.
We do have significant reserves in the water fund that will cover that, and that does prepare us so that we can get to the point where maybe in the future, if it turns into some other projects where we could look at grants for that. Typically, it's more in water, it's more to when we get to the construction phase that we can get grants.
Okay, thanks for clarifying, thanks.
Other questions, council?
I think we're pretty good.
Okay. One quick question from me on the Sargent and Main project. Can we go back to that one? I just wanted to clarify that one because that is a community development block grant. And are we changing the scope on that? I thought that we had talked about possibly changing the scope on that. And therefore, is that what we discussed? And that there was not going to be CDBG funds there, or are we just going to keep it as is, and then the 250 from the CDBG grant, and then we're going to match it with 250?
Well, currently we do have that in the pipeline for CDBG. They have had some issues with potential funding loss from the feds. So we don't, at this point, they haven't said that we're in danger of losing that funding, but we don't have a contract yet. So we have to get through the design before we could even enter into the contracting phase. So whether or not council wants to change scope, that's a question that we could talk about later. The initial change on that project, though, has increased where it's not a 50-50 split. It is actually a much more significant match requirement, where it could be close to $1 million from the city versus about $250 from the grant. So that is a big change.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Let's see here. I just want to make sure I didn't have any other questions. No, I'm good. Anybody else, council? Questions or comments for staff on this point? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, the last thing that I will bring up, it's not in the budget amendment at this point, but at the last meeting, we did have Ridgefield Main Street come and talk to you about a potential donation there. That is something, if council chooses to do that they would need to do by amendment.
Yep.
What we have asked them to do is verify that there are the credits available through that program, where if we donate, we get 75% of that back the next year through our B&O tax refund. So that is something, if council chooses to add this, it would be through amendment, but we would ask that you do that contingent on those credits still being available.
Right, thank you. And so I was going to say, council, if we are done with the budget amendment as presented right now, there's no other questions on that, I would like to extend the opportunity to discuss a potential grant for Main Street for the TSIP program. Councilor Wells.
Yes, I think our downsizing that project from Sargent to Maine, we're just going to upgrade it with that 250 instead of that extra additional million. Mr. Stewart, would you like to enlighten us a little bit on that?
Sure, I'm happy to help, Councilor. And the question with Sargent and Maine project, the $250,000 grant, the CDBG grant, the issue would be more about do we want to accept, as a city, do you want to accept the $250,000 grant, which would require another $1 million to be put toward that project, or can we rescope the project to deal with some of the highest priority issues in that area, specifically issues that have been raised with regards to the sidewalks in the area, parking, as well, because that is something council has indicated as a priority as part of that project, as well as anything we might be able to do to tie together to Eagles View Park. So what we are looking at is, would it make more sense, instead of taking a $250,000 grant to spend $1 million, would it make more sense to rescope and refine to focus on those aspects of the project that have the highest benefit to the local community, and bring that back to you? So we're doing that work right now to take a look at it, and it's something we will be bringing back for your review.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are you looking for direction from council on that?
Not at all.
Not at all, okay.
No, not at this point. We're not at the point where we have a clear direction of what a rescope project could look like.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, and thank you, Councilor Wells, for asking that. That's what I was looking for. Councilor Hamilton, it looks like you might have a question or comment at this point.
I don't have a question about that, but I would like to be involved in the Main Street conversation whenever we start that.
Let's kick that off then. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I am on the board of the Ridgefield Main Street as the city liaison, so I have a special place in my heart for this program and can see firsthand in the last, especially 2026, the amount of energy and effort that has gone into not only the TSIP program, but looking at other ways that they can generate revenue and be more involved in the community and truly listen to feedback. So I'm very pleased by that. I support the program wholeheartedly, but I do want to note, I do have some concerns about the dollar amount. So I believe that the public matching dollars should scale with the demonstrated organizational capacity and outcomes. And I don't know if 70,000 is the right number for that, in my opinion. I am open discussion with the rest of you about what that looks like. Main Street sent us over some information from the Department of Revenue of who thus far has made pledges. They've received pledged amount roughly 70,000, which is why we were asked to make that match number. And that comprises 25 business pledges total. So the carry on our end versus 25 businesses does seem slightly disproportionate to me. I think that we have plans in place and sponsorship opportunities that are really exciting within Main Street. So I do think that a smaller initial match is something that makes sense to me, and I would love to get more input from council on what you guys see for that. So right now, the two highest, there's 3 pledges at the highest dollar amount, all 3 for $10,000. Hannah Motor Company, Vancouver Clinic, and Nutter. Hannah Motor Company, Vancouver Clinic have actually already submitted those numbers. Nutter, and they have till October, November to submit, I believe. But I just wanted to keep those numbers in mind, as the highest donation so far has been $10,000 per largest donation made. So I'm open to more discussion, but that's kind of where I'm thinking to start with.
Great, thank you. Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you for your comments. Councilor Burkle.
Just a question too. What would the $70,000 be used for by Main Street?
And we'll direct questions to staff, but I do see that Mr. Coxon's here tonight on behalf of the Main Street Board. I think it would be okay to have you answer some questions if you're willing. So, Councilor Burkle, I think it's probably a question for Mr. Coxon, and we'll ask you to come to the podium and answer that way.
My name is Steve Coxon, and I'm treasurer of Ridgefield Main Street and Ridgefield Art Association and Ridgefield 4th of July. I have been involved in Ridgefield Main Street for almost 10 years. Took over as treasurer from Terry Hurd. Involved as chair of the design committee and the EV committee now. We, as a Main Street program, have to have a executive director, and we have paid outside consultant. So we do have staff, and we do have staff salaries that we have to pay to be certified as a Main Street program. So that's about half of our budget. The other half of our budget goes to projects to enhance the downtown. Design committee projects like facade improvement grants, flower baskets. I worked with the Garden Club years ago to get the flower baskets downtown. So we are very concerned with beautification of the city. We're also very concerned with the economic vitality. Last year we spent over $30,000 redeeming moolah to get people downtown. And we worked with the city this last year, to get moolah in the hands of people in line at In-N-Out Burger. You know, it's important to get people downtown and support the businesses. Now, the Art Association has opened a gallery in the Olds Hardware store. That's an added benefit, and we are supporting them, trying to help them make that a success. It's important to us that the small businesses succeed downtown. So about half of our budget, $70,000, $80,000, goes to support those businesses, beautify our lovely city, and support the history of our city we put plaques on various buildings that have historic significance. So we've got these projects going on, and we need the money. Now, a $70,000 ask is a 75% credit on a B&O tax. So that's a commitment from the city for $17,500. But the other amount would go to Olympia. We could keep it here. Our executive director has announced that she is retiring at the end of July after we host the regional leadership meeting in Ridgefield. We're trying to beautify the Greeley building from the outside, and that will be part of our hosting the leaders in Washington Main Street programs. So I don't think the ask is a big stretch, considering the city is putting up $17,500 and the other 75% would go elsewhere.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Coxon.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Yeah, any follow-on questions, Councilor Burkle, or you?
I'm good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Councilor Wells.
Mr. Coxon? Oops.
Don't go anywhere. You might do some more questions.
You're off the hook yet.
All right.
Okay. One of the questions I have, and I'm just trying to understand what you said, if the city turns around and donates 70,000, then they get a credit next year for, let's see, you said 17,000, $53,000 credit on their B&O tax that they don't have to pay. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. If the city makes a match, makes a pledge, and pays it by November 1st, they will get a $52,500 credit on their B&O tax in January of 2027.
That is the only caveat there, is if the state still has that funds.
Well, they
for
do.
the match.
They've guaranteed $5 million. And I do want to point out that of that $5 million that we started the year with, there is only $580,000 left. So if we're going to act on this, we have to do it soon, because that money is not going to last for a very long time. $580,000 will go fast.
Okay. That's a point I was trying to get. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Chipman.
So my opinion would be that I think we just really want to support downtown. And I think by awarding them the $70,000, as we had talked about the match, I mean, I'm really perfectly comfortable with doing that, because they do great things for us and we need them, and downtown needs them. And I'm really in support of giving the full 70 if we vote that way, whatever.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Noted. Councilor Davis.
Yeah, thanks. Just to, bring, to the daylight some of our conversations the last time this came around. There was concern by some members of council about, the financial management elements of the organization, just because, the initial goal for the last calendar year was so high, and I think the achievement was about 30%. And it's like, how are things going? Do we know if there have been changes internally to those processes, and just anything that we have available that would help clarify that as stewards of public funds to make sure processes are in place?
I can speak to some, and then obviously
Yeah,
if you want to
that'd be
speak to
great.
more. I saw the most significant concerted effort that I saw is in the focus on acquiring money for this particular program. So I think it was budgeted too high the year before, and it was looked at this way. And I bet I was a part of meetings where they sat in there and we went through each individual business, who had the greatest connection, who was going to make the ask, who did the follow-up. I've also seen in the outreach committee, I've attended a few of those meetings, and looking at how they can integrate things like a micro enterprise series that we do more consistently at Old Liberty, so that our residents have something that they know they can consistently go and see. Like, last one was on social media, I believe, and I went and saw one on podcasts that was really interesting. And they honestly pull very experted, like the people that are coming and presenting at these things, they are being underutilized for sure. So a refocus and talking about how they can integrate some of these systems better. I know through sponsorships, I personally bought my mom with my brothers a flower basket. You can get your mom's name on it, which my mom was beyond thrilled about, and I think they raised $2,000 from that. So starting to think outside of the box. I think there is a thought for me in welcoming a new executive director and wanting to make sure we set that person up for success in part of this conversation as well. But I have seen, and even in Steve's reports for financials, the details have gotten much more thorough about everything that's being spent, and I believe you said in the last meeting too, like, this is any third party that wanted to review this, we have this accessible for them at this point.
That helps. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilor Burkle.
If I could, how many dollars have been spent in the last year on facade improvement for downtown? Any estimate, please?
I have a document here that says 17,000.
17,000? Thank you.
Council, we're kicking off our RISE initiative this year, and it's all about downtown. And it's a hugely, hugely important initiative, not just to me, but I think this entire council. And it's something that, when originally crafted, was really about not just a master planning exercise, but also a community partnerships exercise. And we all know that Main Street is our downtown organization, and it's our link to downtown businesses and the vitality, as Mr. Coxon was talking about. So I'm a huge believer in what Main Street is doing. I also have seen, since we last talked, I think when you came here, was it last fall? In that time, Main Street has done a heck of a lot of work. I've seen them be very busy to raise this amount, to get to that $70,000 amount, to engage 25 different businesses, and I know that's no small order. That takes a lot of work. And so thank you to the board members, to staff who has stepped up and really put the effort in there. It also appears that that is driven by probably a select few number of your organization, people who are probably more highly engaged. And as you go through a leadership transition, as it looks like some board members may transition off the board, I guess what I'm curious about is that sustainable? I know that you guys have put a lot of effort in it, and that tends to feel like it's all consuming, but is that pace sustainable to go year over year and continue to raise that amount, and then having the city support you? Because the last thing I want to do is out of the intent of community benefit and to support our downtown is to provide a grant and then have you guys use that grant, but then not be able to sustain the pace, and then we end up kind of keep coming back and maybe not being able to fulfill that. So is that something that you have had internal discussions about, the sustainability of that effort?
We have, and I think it's very important that we keep our board strong.
Yeah.
And we are looking at people in the community right now to add to our board. People who have connections to money, number one, for potential donors, potential tax credit pledges. People who have the experience with Ridgefield Main Street and the businesses downtown. So we are analyzing that aspect of it because we want to create a strong board that will support our new executive director.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's very important that our new executive director that we have a process in place, and it needs to start now, because that 2 months is going to go fast. Mm-hmm. And we need to be training somebody for that position to take over after July 31. So the strength of the next executive director, the strength of the board are the highest priority right now.
Good. Yeah, I'm encouraged to hear that, Council. I know that has been a huge lift, and I think that I don't question for a moment any one of your board members who I all know personally, and I think they're all great people, and they're very committed to this city and to our downtown. What I would hope is that new board members as they come in would be business-minded, would have those contacts to be able to help you sustain that pace. Not just looking at it from a purely like a business owner looking after their business and how this benefits their business, but also how this benefits the greater community, because I think we are mutually committed to being stewards of this community, and we need that, and we need you guys to be strong, and we need to see a strong downtown, and we don't get that without a strong Main Street.
That's true, and one of our goals this year is to strengthen our relationships with our community partners. Mm-hmm. And I think that Megan's probably witnessed some of that in our board meetings. Chamber of Commerce being one of them. The focus needs to be too on working with the city on the underutilized properties in downtown area. The Wirtz Tree Farm, for instance. The buildings that are vacant. Mm-hmm. The empty lots. Those are things that we need to work with the city on to improve the downtown vitality.
Thank you. I'm really glad to hear you say that, because I wholeheartedly agree. Councilor Hamilton.
Thank you. I completely agree with the board focus as well. I mean, I think while we're in this room and we're having this discussion, it does need to be strategic in whom the next person is and having those bigger contacts that they can make to do the bigger asks in an easier fashion. But also, I really, really encourage us to look at some sort of board development. And the Greater Vancouver Chamber does a lot of that kind of work that we should look into. And I think that is key if this gets funded today, that is a bare minimum like respect level of saying, okay, here's this, now let's run with it. And that's just another thought I'd throw out there.
Good. Councilor Davis.
Well, if we're ready, I was going to make a motion.
Roll it.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay. So I move to adopt ordinance number 1480, amending the 2026 budget as presented.
I'll second.
Hold on. Yeah, that's right.
So you're going to, the budget amendment as presented? Yeah. You make the motion first and then the amendment. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you would want to, first of all, bring the motion for the budget amendment as a whole to the body.
Yes.
If there is a second to that, then it would be applicable to have any amendments to that item.
Yep, that was my intention.
Okay, gotcha. I'm tracking now. So moved by Davis, seconded by Hamilton? What? Oh, who seconded?
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Council discussion.
Yeah, I would move to amend ordinance number 1480 to include a $70,000 allocation to Ridgefield Main Street TSIP program contingent on the credits being available at the state level.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's been an amendment moved by Hamilton, seconded by Chipman to allocate $70,000 to the Main Street program, provided that funding and through the TSIP program is still available at the state level. Council discussion on that. Hearing no discussion. Can this be a voice vote, even though it's an ordinance? I understand, yeah. Yes, okay. But it can be a voice vote, that's what I'm asking, yeah, okay.
Yes.
I am going to abstain from this vote, just so you guys know, to avoid a conflict of interest with this. But it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Then I abstain. Thank you. The amendment carries.
Yeah.
Yep. And now we return to the original motion as amended. Council discussion. Seeing no discussion, Ms. Julie, would you please read the ordinance into the record?
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 1480, an ordinance of the City of Ridgefield, Washington, amending ordinance number 1469 and ordinance number 1477 pertaining to the 2026 budget.
Great, thank you very much. Council, last call for discussion. Seeing none, Ms. Julie, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Wells? Councilmember Wells?
Oh, I didn't hear. Yes.
Councilmember Burkle?
Aye.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chipman? Mayor Cole?
Abstain. Okay, Council, thank you very much. The budget amendment passes. Thank you for your assistance on that. Okay, and thank you, Main Street, for your dedication as well. We do appreciate it. We're going to move on to our next item of business. This is the contract award for the construction of the Ridgefield Community and Recreation Center. Mr. Johnson, we'll go back over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. So we're here also to look at the award for the construction of the Ridgefield Community and Recreation Center. We went out for bid looking for a general contractor to manage the process and construct the project. So we did receive 5 bids, of which we had 3 that we asked to. 6 bids? 6 bids. Okay, 6 bids, excuse me, of which we asked the top 3 to turn in supplemental bidder criteria. We have gone through all of the criteria, and found the lowest responsible bidder to be Tapani. The bid amount with sales tax was $31,619,810. And then what we're asking for is an additional $1 million as project contingency. That project contingency would be split evenly between the private side and the public side as needed. Again, that is a contingency. That's not part of the actual contract that we're asking to do, but if anything pops up, and we would come to council and talk to them about that or any additional amount other than that. Typically, we do a 10 to 15% contingency, which would be over $4 million. We're asking to do a much lower because if there's any changes, we would like to come back to council and have their blessing on anything to kind of go over those changes for the project. So just to kind of compare that, the engineer's estimate with sales tax was just over 40.1 million. So all of the bids did come in below engineer's estimate. Again, it was 31.6 million for the low. And then the second and third were very close to that amount as well. And that is in your packet. And of course, there I've got the rest. They were anywhere from the 31.6 million up to just about 39.3 million. So all of them, we had some really good bids on this. This is the first part of the award, and then we will be coming back at later dates with construction management, special inspections, and a few things like that with some architectural review as needed for supplemental, for submittals and things like that to make sure all of the items that the general contractor bringing in do meet the code and the specs that were designed. So with that, I'd answer any questions. We do have the project manager, Grant Williams, here who could answer more specific, and we also have the private party from Blue Rock Ventures here, Durgesh, as well, to answer any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. Okay, council, I think we're well aware of this one, but I'm going to look around to see if there's any questions for staff at this point. If there are none, we can move into discussion. Councilor Hamilton.
Thank you so much. So I was particularly interested, and I hope that we can hear this. Anything I'm asking right now is not critical. It is inquisitive and hoping to do my due diligence in a project that is going to be, if done right, which is what we're all hoping for, a jewel of our city, right? So anything I'm asking right now is just to make sure we're protecting that thought and that notion. So I am curious, in the past project experience, in the supplemental qualification criteria, the projects that most highlighted Tapani to be chosen for this project, because it is a huge project with a lot of different scale. If I could read some of it here, the recreation portion of the building will contain a gymnasium with an elevated track, a natatorium with a lap pool, a recreation pool, locker rooms, fitness center, studios, to name, multi-purpose spaces, commercial kitchens, child, it's going to be a heavily trafficked area, and a pool is a whole different ballgame. So I want to make sure that we are choosing the right partner for this, and I want to recognize Tapani as a well-respected, incredible corporation that I have nothing poor to say about. I just want to make sure they are the right partner to do such a unique project in this. So if we could highlight the most relevant projects used to sort of compare for that. I know I did ask for that, and I have a very large packet here that I poured over. But if we could kind of highlight that experience so that we understand why those qualifications were hit.
So I can defer to our project team to go over. I don't have the specific projects that we did receive from them, but I can say that our project team, our entire capital team, our private partner, and our architects from EDA Architects and the principal there all looked at the supplemental bidder criteria and found that everything was in order, everything showed that they can do the job, that they're qualified to do the job, and they have had past projects that are comparable. So, Durgesh or Grant, would you like to?
You guys want me up here?
Sure, that'd be great, yeah.
So thank you, Mayor and Council. So yeah, I mean, like with public purchasing laws, you know, we look at low bidder, we had supplemental bidder criteria. With everything that was identified as a supplemental bidder criteria, they met all of the requirements that were in there. So that makes them a responsible bidder, and they were the lowest responsible bidder. So that's the direction we went.
I appreciate that. I was just looking over, and the main things that I'm noticing were larger projects like huge, like very luxury-driven, large apartment complexes, Tappan Zone headquarters, the C-Tran. But I just want to make sure that you know, we've had issues in the past with people that that we're doing everything we can ahead of time to make sure that these are the right people for the right job. So I just love the clarification. Thank you.
It is worth noting that Tappan was a general contractor on the work. So yeah. I
Yes,
don't know if
they've
that's-
done 45 projects in Ridgefield. I read through the
Yeah.
packet as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Other questions or?
And Mayor and Council, we can certainly get you specific information about like what are projects that are similar in nature and who are the subs within the GC piece of it, because obviously the general contractor is the overarching contractor but works with a lot of subcontractors beneath that. We can get you information about some similar projects and kind of what are those key. So happy to do that.
Mr. Johnson, I do have a question. So the engineer's estimate for this project was $37 million, and I hate to say it, but change, but something along those lines, correct?
That's correct, without sales tax.
Without sales tax.
Correct.
Did that estimate also include the construction management contract that we're going to have to approve as well?
That did not. That was for the construction itself.
Okay, so just for the construction. So with the construction management contract, I know that we don't have anybody lined up for that yet. Do we have even a ballpark of what that usually is going to cost?
We have not received a scope and fee yet. We do have a top candidate for that, and they're working through the scope and fee discussion right now, and we do expect to have that hopefully by next week and coming back to you on the 28th for that.
Okay, great. So, but we were anticipating above and beyond that 37 million and change would be additional sales tax and construction management services. This is going to push us probably over the $40 million mark, correct?
That's correct, and there will be special inspections that need to be done because of the type of project that is as well. This particular engineer's estimate that I mentioned is for all the site improvements, the recreation center, and the community center.
Okay, great. I'm in favor of this project. I think that this has been a long time coming. This is something that, as we talk a lot about community input on things, this is something we have heard repeatedly from the community that this, since we have not had a community center since the new library went in place a few years back, that has been a missing component. And we talk about a full service community. We talk about making sure that we build our community right. And I think this is a very necessary project for everybody, not just a certain segment of our, but I think this applies to everybody. I do recognize that when I came on council, and this has been in discussion since before I was on council, probably going back to 2019 or so. But that was the original project estimate was somewhere in the low $20 million range. And now, over the years, we recognize that construction costs go up, and we went from 20-something million dollars. Now we're kind of pushing $40 million, and so those are necessary costs. Those are things that are unavoidable just because of all of the macroeconomic factors as well as things just locally here. But I do recognize also that every dollar that we invest in this council is going to eventually have impacts on our taxpayers, our neighbors, the residents, the people who live here, who are going to benefit from it. And part of the component here is that they have to, is a membership fee that we're trying to keep as low as possible, keep it as affordable as possible. We want this to be accessible to all families, and we don't want it to be priced beyond reach for anybody. And so anything above that, as costs continue to climb, I want to be very mindful of that. And I guess to staff, I would say that as well. 31.6 million is a lot of money. There's going to be a construction management contract. There's a potential contingency of $1 million. But what I would say is to the contractors who are here, to our private partners, to our city staff, that we need to be very, very diligent with this budget that we have, because it is a very expensive project, and any dollar amount of that will impact the end user. And so if we're coming back to us and months down the road and asking for millions of dollars more in change orders, we understand that those are part of the process, and there's a lot of things that happen there. But I think they're going to probably, at least for me, would be met with a lot of scrutiny, because I do not want to invest another dollar that's going to make this out of reach for one more family. I want every family in Ridgefield to have access to this community and recreation center as possible. So I'm supportive of this, but with the caveat that is not far from my mind, that I think that we need to really stick close to the budget on this. And if we can avoid any change orders, if we can avoid any contingencies, that is desired, I think, from me, and I hopefully the rest of this council. Anything else? Okay. Well, at this point, council, I would entertain a motion if there's no other discussion.
So I will make a motion that we award the contract for the construction of the Ridgefield Community and Recreation Center for the price of $31,619,810 to Tapani Incorporated.
Can you include the contingency in there?
Oh, and the contingency for $1 million contingency.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Chipman, seconded by Burkle to award the contract for the Ridgefield Community and Recreation Center to Tappan Construction, Inc. For the price for the cost as presented, including all necessary contingencies. Any discussion, council? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, council. Motion carries, and we are well on our way to a new community and recreation center. Thank you very much. Okay, we have one more item of business tonight. This is the Sanderling Park Phase 4 final plat, and for that, we'll go to Ms. Lust in Community Development.
Great, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council and members of the public. This business item is a final plat for Phase 4 of the Sanderling Park Planned Unit Development. All right, this slide illustrates the location on South Hillhurst Road. The original subdivision was approved back in 2019, over 430 lots, including a mix of single-family detached and townhome lots. Phase 4, skipping ahead to the next slide, please. So in sort of the north-central portion of the project, it includes 77 single-family detached residential lots. Average lot area is right around 5,000 square feet. Next slide, please. This shows the detailed plat, which is also included in your packet. Aside from the residential lot, the project includes a number of connecting trails as well as open space, which will be shown on the next slide in more detail. The centerpiece of the open space is a 2.9 acre future city park. It is currently, and as platted, will be under control of the developer until the work is complete and accepted, at which point it will be dedicated to the city per the 2025 amendment to the development agreement addressing parks and trails. Work is underway on the park itself, began in late April, and there is a contractual obligation in the DA to complete that work in 12 months. I believe the next slide will show in a little more detail what the activated portion of that park will look like. Happy to take any questions about further details on that here in a moment, but I'll first just note that as with our typical final plat review, survey review complete, engineering review complete, no performance bonding required on this project, and land use review complete and all comments addressed as well. The property is currently under the urban holdings zoning overlay. As council is aware, this is a zoning overlay that is able to be lifted at final plat, concurrent with final plat approval, as the infrastructure has been installed to support the lots being platted. So with that, Mayor, I will hand it back to you for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, council, any questions for Ms. Luss on this final plat? Councilor Davis.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Looking at the park, since we are at, phase 4 for this, I'm curious, is this park gonna, it looks awesome. Is it gonna be built to include a lot of the inclusive elements and standards that we passed maybe about 9 months ago or so? Or is there like investment involved where they're not obligated to hit those?
Sure. I don't have all the details on the individual elements of the park. Happy to provide those, but I will say that it has been reviewed to the engineering standards, which were updated around a year ago.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I'll just comment that I love the variety of the size of the lots, and I think this is going to turn out just beautifully for that area of the city, so I'm very pleased with this.
Councilor Hamilton, thank you.
Thank you. I didn't have any questions for Ms. Lust. I just wanted to have two comments that I like that even though these are townhouses, they're attached in pairs. I think that that's nice to just have the two together. And I appreciate the trail connectivity between the Nye subdivision and Boyce Park too, I think is.
Counselor, this is a detached product in this phase of the subdivision. The overall has a mix, but this phase
I
is
like
detached.
the other thing you talked about, and I'll take it back for this.
Councilor Wells.
I just have one question. That green line that runs, I don't know whether it's north, south, west, goes straight up and then goes a right angle up the other way. Is that a trail?
It is a trail.
Okay.
Great, other questions, council? If not, I'd accept the motion.
I move to approve the Sanderling Park Phase 4 plat as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved by Hamilton, seconded by Wells, to approve Sanderling Park Phase 4 final plat as presented. Council, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you, council. Motion carries. All right. That concludes our business for the evening. We do have a public hearing. This is the first reading of ordinance number 1481. This is the Nye Plan Unit Development Agreement. Ms. Lust, back over to you.
Thank you again, Mayor. This is a public hearing and first ordinance reading only for the Nye Plan Unit Development Agreement. That means no action is being requested this evening. So as a bit of background, with the location shown on the screen before you, the Nye PUD received preliminary plat approval back in February of 2024. The approved project includes 62 townhouse lots attached in pairs, open space and infrastructure improvements. Process-wise, the engineering plans for the project are currently under review. Prior to completing that plan review process, initiating site construction, and then eventually submitting for final plat approval, the applicant and the city seek to enter into a development agreement. Next slide, please. Maybe. That's just showing, backing up a half step, the approved preliminary plans. The terms of the proposed development agreement, which I believe are on the next slide, thank you, basically center around two key issues. One is that the applicant seeks to satisfy their requirement to build single-family attached townhomes using a product with side entries and 2-car garages. And the city seeks to acquire from the applicant a 10.4-acre property that's located between the developed portion of the site and Boyce Park to the east for the purpose of a public park containing a public connector trail, which would be constructed by the applicant. The park dedication and trail construction under the proposed DA would be PIF creditable. So moving along to the next slide, this is an example provided by the applicant of what a side entry product could look like. As I noted, the approved project is for townhomes attached in pairs, so invite you to imagine two of those next to each other. As you can see, it would achieve that garage and driveway width as well as the side entry. And then moving on to the next slide, this exhibit illustrates, zooms out a bit and illustrates what that park and trail area would look like, connecting the Nye PUD to the west with Boyce Park to the east, and then an existing trail stub built with the Kemper Loop subdivision to the south. With that, Mayor, I will once again hand it back to you for any questions.
Great, thank you, Ms. Luss. Council, any questions on this one? Go to Councilor Wells first, then we'll go to Hamilton.
Okay.
Claire, I've got a couple of questions for you. Is our architectural standards still in force here where no 4 or 5 houses can be the same design on the front facade like the rest of the developments in the community?
That's correct, Councillor Wells. The architectural design standards for townhomes that the project is vested to do require that facade variety.
Okay. One other question I have, could we go back to the first screen of the parcelization, Boyce Park? Oh, that wasn't the first one. I think it was back farther, one more. There we go. 9 PUD, Boyce Park. Where's Reman Road?
It's right there on
Reman Road is on the western boundary of the orange rectangle.
Oh, that side, okay. I usually can tell by every map what's what, but I'm still confused there. But I see the map. Go ahead on for any other questions. I didn't know they were touching. That was one of the questions I have because Nye is along Reman Road and Boyce Park is quite a ways back inside the development off of 35th. And so I just didn't know that they touched. I'll still have to orientate myself to it later, but thank you.
Great. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. I just wanted to take my previous statements and put them here, just for the reference. I was trying to jump ahead, so let's just copy and paste. Thank you.
Councillor Burkle.
Just a quick question. The trail that will be put through the wetland area by the developer, will that actually join up with a trail in Boyce, or does it end on that red line?
Thank you for the question, Councilor. The quick answer is yes. So if you look at the trail, proposed trail, that is the white line going east from Nye and then working with the topography. So that's why it kind of weaves. And Councilor Wells had brought it up earlier this week that by doing that, by actually weaving that trail to the south and then back to the north, you're working with the slope more so you can create a flatter trail. And then there are a couple of crossings because it is a wide bog and wetland complex, and there are a couple of crossings that are old farm crossings that they can use to then make it across to the east side of the wetland complex. And that's where you see another white line that is going from southwest to northeast. On the southwest edge of that, it says Kemper Loop Open Space, right? There is a trail right there that actually connects at that point, and if you walk it, you can walk it now. It's a beautiful trail. It's a primitive surface going directly adjacent to the wetland complex that ends at a barbed wire fence. That barbed wire fence is that orange line and the white line. That's exactly where it is. And so that is where on the south side that the trail would connect to Kemper Loop Open Space. On the north side of it, as you see it connecting up to where it says City of Ridgefield property. The City of Ridgefield property is part of Boyce Park. I'm not sure exactly why it's parceled out this way. The city purchased 9 acres from the Boyce family that is all Boyce Park. It's just there are 2 different pieces of it. The City of Ridgefield property, along that area, there is also a primitive trail that used to be, it was a dirt track that they used for motorcycles and 4-wheelers. And so there's actually a dirt track trail that connects up at exactly that spot as well. So you would go from that, connecting into the City of Ridgefield property, Boyce Park, and you're in Boyce Park at that point. And then you head east from there, and that takes you on a confluence of primarily trails, sidewalks, and multimodal paths, ultimately get you up to Paradise Point and to Storybook Hollow Park.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
The new trail that's right there, the white one is kind of going south and kind of jogs back north. Do we know what kind of service that will be?
It would, we're in a buffer area, so it's going to be the type of trails that are allowed in a buffer area. We do have different surface types, and Director Lust, maybe.
Yeah, there's a variety of surface types that are allowed in a wetland buffer. They just have to be pervious. We've seen in the city like a wood chip type trail. More recently, we have worked with a couple of projects to get in like a pervious gravel surface that's a bit more long lasting. So that's something that through the development review of this park, our engineering and parks team would work to figure out.
That's great. Okay, thank you. I think it's really good. I know that the plan unit development's a big portion of this because it's going to provide some really necessary housing at a higher density, but also I know that we had been looking at that trail connectivity for a number of years and weren't able to get it done, and so we're going to be able to do that to bridge really two essential parts of town. So I'm kind of excited about this. Yeah. Any other comments or questions, council? Oh, sorry, didn't see you over there.
I know I get lost down here at the end when my, my neighbor has to take off. I guess I am just curious with adding this many more units, what does that kind of do for traffic impact on both Reman and then at the intersection of Reman and Pioneer?
Sure. So a full traffic impact analysis was complete with the preliminary plat,
Okay.
The details of which we'd be happy to share with you.
Okay.
And one of the key factors with that in the traffic impact analysis was, number one, having multiple ingress egress points, which you see on this along Reman. Also to stub to the south end of the property for a future connection down to Pioneer Canyon Drive as it crosses from east to west. Pioneer Canyon Drive currently stubs at the west end of the Kemper Loop the Kemper Loop subdivision. The ultimate plan is for it to connect to Reman Road. There is an intervening property that at some point it's in the city we expect will develop. We wanted to make sure that this property stubbed to that as well, so there'd be another connection point.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Looking around. No other comments at this point? Councilor Wells?
I solved my senior moment, because I've been all over that property for years, but I didn't get that Nye was west of Boyce, and they are connected other than with the wetland in between them. But the shape is what threw me off there, but I've got it now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. If there's no other comments, we do have a public hearing, so I would like to go to that. The public hearing, if you sign up with the city clerk before the meeting, your name will be called and you will be receiving permission to unmute your microphone or step up to the podium. If you did not sign up in advance but would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature on your toolbar. If you're joining by phone, press *9 to raise your hand and press *6 to mute or unmute, and the city clerk will grant you permission to speak. And when speaking, please state your name and keep your comments to 3 minutes. And as a reminder, there will be no back and forth discussion between the city council and the speaker. With that, this public hearing is now open. Ms. Julie, did anybody sign up to speak?
I do not have anyone sign up, Mayor.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the room wishing to give comment on this public hearing? It's got to be on this subject, not public comment. Yeah. We'll have another public comment period. Don't worry. It's good to you.
Nikki Hinton's got her hand up, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody online?
We do have Nikki Hinton Duke online, Mayor.
Okay, great. Nikki, go ahead.
Yep. Now you can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, Nikki Duke with Hinton Development. I just wanted to say thank you guys for continuing to work with us. The city of Ridgefield does such a good job working with us when it comes to getting projects through the pipeline and creating beautiful developments. You guys do a very good job of that. And I'm always impressed anytime I do a project in Ridgefield. So I just wanted to say thank you for just what you do, because it's very refreshing. But this project in particular, as you heard, it was prelim approved 2 years ago. It has some topo restraints. It has just some harder things when it comes to projects with specifically the single car garages, the attached units with the single car garages. So I guess what we are asking from you guys is to create, I want to continue to create projects that fit Ridgefield, and really a 2-car garage seems to be the best project for your guys' area, the best type of housing for both homeownership, but also being able to have the availability, I guess, for rentals if you need them. You tend to have things inside the garage instead of out on the streets, so it looks nicer. And the side entry is the only way to be able to achieve a 2-car garage look on this type of lot. So I just wanted to note that is why we're pushing for the 2-car garage, why it's the side entry is because it won't fit front entry. So we're willing to work with you guys with the architectural standards, landscaping, different things, but yeah, the site has just been a challenging one, which is why I am still working on it 2 years later. So yeah, thank you for taking the time to just work with us and continuing to make Ridgefield a great community to do business in, but also live in.
Great. Thank you for your comments, and they are noted. I appreciate it. Okay, is there anybody else online, Ms. Julie?
Not seeing anyone else.
Okay, and I'll look around the room one more time. If anybody wishing to give comment on this public hearing, I'm not seeing anybody on this hearing.
Yeah.
Okay, come on up.
I promise.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything except on this hearing.
Yeah.
I promise, because I took notes. So what is really cool, it's nice, like I love how when you build in Ridgefield, you keep the 20% open space, but it would be so nice to see some developments where there was like not smacked right against each other, where people had like a bigger yard and, you know, where there was like space in between houses. So that's all. That would be nice to have you look at that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Hearing none, I'm going to close this public hearing. And council, I'm looking around, I don't think there's any further discussion, but I'll give you one last shot. Okay, not. So with that, Ms. Julie, would you please read the ordinance into the record?
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 1481, ordinance of the City of Ridgefield, Washington, approving a development agreement with H2 Nye LLC for the development of 9 residential community.
Great, thank you very much. And this is first reading only. Will come back to us and be noticed at a later date. Okay, that concludes our public hearing and our business for the evening. We're going to go into our second portion of public comment. Anybody wishing to address City Council regarding items not subject to a specific public hearing may come forward at this time to the podium or use the raise hand feature located at the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen. For controls over the phone, press star 9 for raise hand and press star 6 to mute or unmute. Please state your name and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Mr. Jennings, good to see you, sir.
Hi, my name is Michael Jennings. Thanks to all of you for your carefully logical management of Ridgefield. Living in Ridgefield is wonderful.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to give a comment? Come on up. Oh.
Matt Haggerty, Mr. Mayor and council members, I've sat through 2 of these public meetings, and there's just one thing that I don't understand. You sit here before us and you say, you are the city council members of this city. I'm a constituent, yet you can't seem to do anything what the port does. It just doesn't make sense. If the waste management wasn't picking up trash, you'd do something. If Kathy said, forget it, I'm out of here, and let cars race up and down the street, you'd do something. But somebody brought up, well, Washington state law does say that the city council can change the zoning codes if it's based upon community concern. I think you've heard enough concern. If not, I can turn the volume up if you want. But what's more important is, it's also my understanding that all it would take is from one of you council members, I'm not sure what the process is, but to put a petition or an application on the city planner's desk, Claire, to start to look at rezoning or revisit rezoning, and you can do that. I'm not sure if that's, I'm not a lawyer, I don't know, I'm sure Steve can answer that question, but it's my understanding that's all it would take, is for one of you city council members to put an application or something to look into or revise the zoning codes. I may be wrong. Steve, please tell me if I am. But anyway, that's my concern. It's just that it just doesn't make sense to me that you are the city council members and you can't do anything about what the port does. It just doesn't make sense. What are you doing in front of me if you can't do anything about the port? It's part of the city. And this, like the gentleman earlier said, 20 seconds, oh. Like the gentleman said earlier, this is going to be the biggest issue that you guys have. It's your legacy. Your children are going to be affected by your decision. And yet you're saying, sorry, we can't do anything. Mr. Mayor, you've prefaced both of these meetings by saying, if it's about the port, don't forget, we can't do anything, we're not the bad guys, they are. So it's just, like I said, it just doesn't make any sense. And no disrespect, Mr. Mayor, but it just doesn't make sense that you guys can't control what other entities of the city do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you again. Ms. Quall.
Thank you. Peggy Quall again. I'm concerned about the fact that, well, I did just look at Palindrome and kind of what they've done. Mostly seems really serious urban design, kind of steel and glass and multi-leveled apartment buildings. And then I see on the site plan that they're planned for big apartment buildings, and I've heard maybe up to 75 feet, which represents, what, 6, 7 floors. Doesn't seem really appropriate for something down on the port property, which is adjacent to the refuge, where we worry about bird flight patterns and have made a commitment to dark skies and things like that. And along with apartment buildings go big asphalt parking lots. So another thing, just to comment, and I know it doesn't really have anything to do with you, but just for the record, I looked to see if there are any like architectural renderings, architectural schematics of their vision. Nothing. All we've seen is that little site plan with little blocks representing different uses. And I don't know why at this point, since they kind of seem to want to be jumping off soon, why there isn't some sort of visual that would help people understand what the port is envisioning. And I mean, are they seeing something more urban, or are they seeing something compatible with kind of the design? I see the port property, the old town, and the refuge is kind of a triangle there, and they should really design-wise complement each other. So I just hope that there's a real eye to design. I mean, it could turn out to be a really wonderful project. It really needs to be sensitive to what a wonderful site that is. And there were other developers besides Palindrome, and I'm sure there's some that really specialize in like eco-design. I mean, it could really be a stellar project if it's done right, and we have one chance at it. And whatever they put there, we're going to live with for a long time. So anyway, that's all, and thank you for your time.
Thank you again. Anybody else here wishing to give comment again?
Okay, and this time I'm gonna stay with my plan. So, Shauna Fisher, so I know you guys probably know about the petition, so I wanted to just read some comments that people had on the petition, because I think sometimes when we hear stuff, it can help. So, there's one person that put, I walk the waterfront every morning. It is there that I meet my friends. I love living in Ridgefield, and the waterfront is my favorite place. Everyone looks out for each other and the environment. We comment on the wildlife and plants we see and share our love for the magical place. Where's the other one? Sorry, I'm gonna get to it. Okay. So I feel like there are two distinct Ridgefields, the busy part out by I-5 and the peaceful part downtown along the river. The additional housing and hotel make no sense for the waterfront. That is an area known to flood. There is only one point of access, etc. The impact on the refuge can only be negative. Thank you to everyone who is getting involved by signing the petition and speaking against this awful plan. Okay, let's see if I have time to do this one really quick. Okay, I'm just gonna skip with this one. Carty Lake is my backyard, and the proposed development is heartbreaking. The blow was taken from an article and slightly modified. Okay. Some places aren't empty land waiting for a better use. They are the use. They are the backbone of Ridgefield. The reason people come here to breathe, reset, and feel something so real again. The reason this land isn't just scenery, it's identity, because once this kind of land is gone, it's gone for good. A hotel and housing can be built somewhere else. A Ridgefield sunset over the water cannot. Some things should stay exactly as they are, wild, free, and quiet. Let's see, how much time do I have? I have a minute. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to read this one. The Ridgefield waterfront should not be densely developed. Local residents appreciate this open nature space and using it as the waterfront access. It should be for a small town. The only people who would benefit from major development is developers from our community and our community would suffer from it. Leave the major development by the freeway and let the community enjoy the waterfront. And this other person said, I'm all for some tasteful developments, but trying to make it a corporate waterfront like Vancouver is not what Ridgefield residents want. A nice park, water access, maybe a gathering space for shows or events would be great. We don't need hotels and shopping. So that's, I mean, there's tons of comments. I would be happy to, could email these to you guys because I printed them off. So just wanted to share that because, I think you guys are hearing it, but I think to hear it from the community is important because the waterfront is it's a treasure. And once you build on that, you can't unbuild. So there you go. So thank you for being so receptive and listening. Thank you.
Thank you again, Ms. Fisher. Anybody else wishing to give comment? Mr. Grenz?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of pick up on a couple loose ends here before I leave tonight. I know there's a lot of subdivisions here in Ridgefield, and I appreciate that 25% of that property is set aside for parks. But there's a concern here about the infrastructure, the lack of infrastructure to handle the population growth that we have. And it's just going to get worse with the development down there at the waterfront. And what concerns me is I read that Palindrome was going to be basically in charge of this traffic impact analysis. And I think that's kind of like conflict of interest if it's allowed to happen. I think that should be an independent party that can evaluate the traffic situation here in town presently and then see what the potential allowance would be for any waterfront development. That should be one of the first steps that you even look at before you even make that decision further down the road here for the development. It just seems like one of the basic things that you would address first. Going online and Googling and trying to get a little information here, one of the critical issues affecting the Ridgefield community is public safety, infrastructure, and economic development. Ridgefield is rich on economic development. We're doing real well in that department. Public safety, I think we're doing real well there as well. It's the infrastructure that's our weak link. And I think that there's not enough focus on that. And that's where it's going to drop the quality of life here in Ridgefield, especially on Pioneer and Main Street and that 2-lane overpass. That's going to be a bottleneck, and I don't know how in the heck you guys are going to resolve that issue. When the waterfront development is built, it's going to be something that's going to be real challenging. So I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out once more. And I did want to say on the development agreement, I know the city's involved right now in discussion with Palindrome. There will not be a finalized decision between Palindrome and the city on that. It's going to be between Palindrome and the port. Once this, from what I understand, from what the city and Palindrome are doing is kind of working out any bugs or questions, trying to figure it out so it can go back to the port, and Palindrome and the port will agree to that development agreement, finalize it. And once it's finalized, that's a legally binding document. And Palindrome's going to have the green light, from what I understand, to start their architectural engineering studies, planning, and move forward. And that leads to building permits and so forth. And then and then right in there behind that is your master lease agreement. Things are going to town, and I'm just hoping that
Thank you, Mr. Grenz.
things slow down.
Yeah. Anybody else wishing to give public
Can I
comment?
say one other thing?
We're out of time, I'm sorry. Anybody else wishing to give public comment tonight?
All right, thank you.
Anybody online, Ms. Julie? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close public comment, and we're going to go to council reports. Anybody itching to go first? I'm going to not limit you, but I will ask you to move expeditiously. Councilor Wells, we'll start with you, sir.
I went and attended 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 meetings. Oops.
Gotcha.
I attended 7 meetings, and don't forget, Monday the 18th is a Ridgefield Junction Neighborhood Association meeting. The doors open at 6:30, and the meeting starts at 7 and is over exactly at 8:30. So everybody's welcome. That's at Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree. That's, I'm done.
All right. Counselor Burkle.
Just one very interesting weekend we spent at the retreat with the council. It was very, very rewarding. We brought city staff with us, and they interacted for 2 days. Great team building, was wonderful.
Thank you. Counselor Hamilton.
Thank you. I will keep mine brief too. I want to thank the council and everyone, city and staff. It was a great retreat. I really value your feedback and being in a room together like that. I thought that was awesome. There was a great spring festival, so great job on that too for first Saturday. I did a couple board meetings, and I won't bore anyone with the rest, so thank you for everything everybody does.
All right. Counselor Davis.
Yeah, thank you. I had my council chat with Councilor Favela at Little Conejo. We got to talk all things port development, which was good, right? It was good to actually, because in public comment, like, we don't get to have that dialogue, and so it was nice to be able to have a little bit more of that conversation. We talked about first Saturday, the ribbon cutting at the new refuge community building was fantastic. Earlier this week, I had the CTRAN board meeting. We have a new board composition, but I'm still a board member representing the small cities, along with Councilor Hine from City of Camas. And I guess one of the bigger ticket items was something related to the interstate bridge replacement project. Vancouver has placed a big priority on extending light rail further into the city. We expressed some concerns about the dollar amount associated with that, and where that money was going to be coming from. We tried to amend it to sort of alleviate some of that concern, and that didn't go. But that was probably the biggest ticket item. And the last thing I will say is our American Legion Post 44, they are focused on getting up, hitting 250 flags because it's America's 250th birthday by the 4th of July. Right now they have they're about 25, 30 short. And you can sponsor a flag. It's like $100. But you could sponsor a flag, you put your name on it, you could put, in memory of somebody or honor a veteran's service. But Henry and I, we sponsored one, and so I would encourage everybody to consider that, especially as we head towards America's 250th birthday, and we all know that the flags that they put out are one of the many things that makes our community special.
Thank you. Yeah. What is that dollar amount, just out of curiosity?
It was $100.
No, I mean for the, you said the dollar amount with the light rail.
Oh, it was not $100.
I wish it were.
Yeah, I wouldn't have hung an amendment on that. It was $1 billion to go to extend light rail from essentially the waterfront right on the other side of the bridge to the Evergreen Boulevard overpass, which is about half a mile further, but it's an extra $1 billion. So, yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of concern with that.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Thank you for the work you did on that. I know it's tricky to navigate, but I do appreciate your work. So,
How do we find where to sponsor a flag at?
I believe they have forms on their Facebook page. You can also email Commander Jen, and she can get you the information. I'd fill out like a paper form. I actually picked it up at Springfest. They had a booth out there.
Okay.
They were handing it out, and so I snagged one and mailed it back.
Okay, thank you.
okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, so for me, let's see, well, besides council retreat, which was an excellent session, I attended the art board this week on Monday and Clark Regional Wastewater District meeting on Tuesday. One of the things that came out of that meeting was just that they have been awarded a $10 million in loan funding for the Ridgefield Sewer Redirection Project, whatever that is, goes with for Clark Regional Wastewater. But anyway, which is a great thing. They've been awarded that, so they were really happy about that. And then they something else about a contract that they just awarded to Tapani, but that's it for me.
All right, thank you. I'll be fast. Thank you, council, for all of your work over the last couple of weeks. I did sit down a podcast interview last week to talk about all things waterfront and our comp plan, and so that'll be released in the next couple of weeks, so look for that. We'll post it online. I think we answered a lot of questions that we've heard there. And we do appreciate the strong public turnout and engagement that we've been seeing, both online and here in the room. It's clear that people here care deeply about Ridgefield's future, especially the waterfront. And that's something that's an important part of the process. And I do want to let the audience know that it's something that all 7 of us care deeply about too. We live in this community just like you do, and we care deeply about the waterfront. And what I've been telling people is that I'm optimistic that we're gonna get to a place that is gonna be good for the community and alleviate, maybe not all of them, but like as many of the concerns we can. So I'm optimistic about that. And not every conversation is going to be easy, but the thoughtful and respectful public conversation is a good part of what makes local government, where I consider where the rubber meets the road. This is where you see the impacts of what government intersects with people's lives. And so we thank you for your participation in that. And with that, Councilor Hamilton and I will be doing a council chat this weekend. So if you do have questions and you don't just want to talk to us and have us have blank stares back at you, we can actually respond to some of those questions this Saturday at 2 p.m. at 8 Cal Creamery. Please come, and it will be not just for waterfront discussion, but all kinds of things. And so we want to make sure we give space for everybody to come and ask questions and participate in that. It's National Police Week. I don't know if you know, but I just want to acknowledge RPD and the fantastic, brave men and women of our police force here inside of Ridgefield and the work that they do every single day. We thank you for their dedication. I received an email today talking about how there was an issue, and our lieutenant stepped in to resolve it, and they were very happy with the level of service that we provide, and we expect no less because we get no less. So thank you for that. With that, I'm going to close out my comments, and we'll go to the city manager and staff. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, and members of City Council and community. Lots going on. A lot of it has already been mentioned by council. One thing that, with all of the public interest surrounding the port's waterfront development proposal and questions about what the city can and can't do, while we've put some information forward, we're going to kind of double down on that and increase our communications. And we have Ridgefield Roundtable that we use for project pages. We also have Fact versus Fiction that we use on our website. We're going to work on that, putting something together for the port's waterfront proposal on that. What is the port? What are, as an independently elected body, who are the Port Commission, how do they work? What is their district versus the city? What can the city and what can't the city do within zoning? One quick thing that I will indicate, just because it's been raised several times, and especially because there will be a Saturday conversation, the question was, can't you just change the zoning? State law allows for that. Yes, the city council absolutely has powers to change zoning and to adopt comprehensive plans which establish the overarching land use alternatives people have that gives them the rights to their property. There's also what's called the Vested Property Rights Doctrine. If you go to mrsc.org, the Municipal Research Services Corporation, they're brilliant. They have great information. They have a Vested Rights Doctrine page, and they have a one-pager that is super simple, and it's really good at showing why, once an application is filed appropriately, including for a subdivision or short plat subdivision, a short subdivision, then the rights of the property owner on that land for how they can develop the land, the development regulations, the zoning are locked. They have those rights and they are locked. So when people talk about, well, the city says they can't do anything until 2028, that's because in 2023, the Port of Ridgefield, as a property owner, short subdivided their property. And in doing so, they locked their rights in to the zoning that existed at the time. That is the waterfront mixed use zone. So if you go to our zoning page on Ridgefield's website, it'll tell you every use that is allowed and not allowed, either outright or conditionally, in the waterfront mixed use zone. That is the rights that they are vested to. They are locked in to. And so that's why that even if you change the zoning or you change the comprehensive plan designation, the port until 2028 could develop that property as the property owner with the rights that they locked in 2023. So that's the quick of it. We'll get more on the website for you. Doesn't mean there's nothing that the city can do. There's lots of other pieces to this puzzle. But as far as that piece, I did want to make sure that we all walk away clearer a little bit on that, because I don't want people to feel that somehow that you are being disingenuous or we are being disingenuous about that with the zoning issue.
Thank you. I do appreciate you raising that. That was something that I was going to talk about.
I know, right?
Yeah. And we'll make sure we get that online, and we'll get the information out so it's not just me saying it. We'll prove up, because there's RCWs that I could quote, and then everybody be like, what are you doing?
And that's something I was going to talk a little bit more about on Saturday, just so you know, so we'll talk about it. Thank you for putting that clarity out there. I do appreciate it. Yeah.
What makes you think we're going to be there on Saturday?
That's true. Anything else for you, Mr. Stewart?
No, thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for the city manager? Seeing none, okay, we're going to go to Public Works and Mr. Thamer.
I don't have anything tonight, but happy to answer questions.
Go ahead, one question from Mr. Burkle.
Just two things. I'd like to give your crew a shout out for the work they did on getting the splash pad back up working in a very, very efficient way. Great work.
Thank you. I'll
One
pass
other
that along.
quick question. The speed reader boards we have located, one particularly on inbound Hillhurst. As the trees are leafing out, it's completely obliterated. Is it the HOA's responsibility or our responsibility to trim those trees so you can see that reader board?
We'll look into it.
Operator error. So it's kind of two answers to that. Street trees are typically the responsibility of the adjacent property owner. However, with our infrastructure, we have the ability to trim trees to improve sight distance. So I can direct our staff to take a look at that and get those cut back.
Thank you.
The reason I have concern, as they enter the city off of the county road, they're doing 45, 50, 55 miles an hour. And that board does help calm them down, but you can't see it right now.
Understood.
Thank you.
I'll have our staff take care of it.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Davis, you have a question?
Yeah, I noticed today we put out communication about our water conservation efforts and things like that for, I guess, the second year in a row. I did notice that it's created renewed conversation about Ridgefield's running out of water. And, why are we giving green lights to new development when we're running short and all that stuff? I think there's an opportunity for us to maybe have a little bit more prominent that we're not running out of water. It's a water conservation initiative, and obviously we have some big projects that we're highlighting, but I think that could be an important part about our messaging this year, because I think there was a lot of that narrative that was active last year, and it seems to be firing up this year, that I think could just help people have accurate information.
Okay, we'll certainly look at that and get the word out.
All right, thank you.
Any other remaining questions for Public Works? All right, thank you. We'll go to Finance and Mr. Johnson.
I do not have anything else tonight. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson, Council? All right, thank you, sir. City Attorney, Ms. Parker.
No report this evening, just here to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much. Ms. Lust.
Thanks, Mayor. Nothing else from me tonight.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Notnaris, our Deputy City Manager. God bless you. Okay, thank you. And last, but certainly not least, Chief Doriot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am going to keep you for a little while here just to update you on something. I actually have two things. One is an update, and it's kind of about a common complaint that we receive in the city as it relates to Ridgefield Police Department and a concern that citizens have, which is speed enforcement. We get quite often complaints from citizens, or perhaps a better word would be concerns from citizens about speeding in their various neighborhoods. So I just want you to understand and share with you that we do take those concerns very seriously, and we do make efforts to address them. One of those ways that we do that is you'll quite often see the data trailer move to those locations. And what we're doing there is collecting data so that we can then really assess, are we having a speeding issue here? Because sometimes citizens who aren't, they're concerned that there's speed, but it really isn't to the degree that they think. And the data trailer helps us to verify if maybe it is exactly what they think, or maybe there's just some other issues going on. We recently deployed it up on Heron Drive, and I think when we got that data back, usually the data then is forwarded to Brian Cast, who is our city engineer. He does an analysis of that data, and he's able to determine, do we have a problem here that might require us to do some mitigation, some speed mitigation, or I think calming measures is the term that's commonly used. And he makes recommendations based on that data. So the one up on Heron Drive, it actually, most of the traffic was traveling, I believe the expression is the 85th percentile, which was about between 25 and 27 miles per hour going eastbound or westbound, and then a little bit higher going eastbound. But it really didn't reach the level of concern where we would want to start thinking about putting in speed bumps. But what it does do is it tells me that I need to make sure that we're deploying our officers to that area. I know that you have had someone come before you and talk about the donut hole and concerns that are happening up on South 10th Way. We are also very diligently working up there. We have sent officers up there quite a bit, and we're starting to do a new data collection effort in addition to the data trailer that I think is going to give us some real good information that I'm hoping to share with you down the road just in a few weeks. So we are in the process of doing that. But I just wanted you to know, because I know you guys hear it too, that there are concerns about traffic and speed. So just know that it is very much on our minds, and we are very much trying to do ways to mitigate that and to deal with it. Totally unrelated to traffic, number 2, which I love, is I want you to know that Detective King is receiving recognition again, rightly so. He is going to be recognized by the Ridgefield School District on May 19th. They are having a meeting from 5 to 6:30. It's an event actually where they recognize what they call Learn Here heroes who go above and beyond in communities to help kids in the school districts. And we all know how committed Detective King is to our schools. So I wanted to share that with you so that any of you who wanted to attend, they do, I think, ask for an RSVP, but that will be at the Vancouver Innovation Center, and I can make sure that we get that address out to you if you are interested in attending. But once again, very proud of everything that Officer King or Detective King does for our community.
Wow.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Chief? Thank you for that update, and always good to hear good news, especially if it pertains to Detective King. So, okay, thank you. It's been a long meeting. We do appreciate it, the public. We appreciate staff and council for your efforts as well. But with that, this meeting is adjourned.